Hello, welcome to another edition of Conversations with Victor and Franca. And as usual, I want to remind you that this is Victor and that is
Franca here.
Okay. Our last broadcast, we were talking about parenting, and there was a lot of demand for us to continue along that line and bring more knowledge, and I promise that we will. But this time we'll be talking about how to parent children effectively in the natural areas. Okay, that's what we're talking about today. And it begins with effective use of our parental authority in guiding the life of these children from an early age. Okay, so how can we begin that topic and begin to talk about that?
Well, talking about raising excellent children in the competitive world, we begin with the home, where the children are being raised, what is obtainable within the home. And of course, we know that as parents, we are the leaders. We are expected to guide these children. Children left to themselves cannot lead themselves or even train themselves. They don't know their right from their left, at least at a certain age when they're still small. So parents have the responsibility to raise these children and nurture them, and must provide a conducive environment where these children can thrive. Talking about authoritative parenting, we are not saying the parents should be authoritarians. You're not supposed to lord it over them and everything is by force or by fire. Bully them. No, we're talking about balancing discipline and warmth here.
Yeah.
Where you understand that the children need to they need to know that there are rules and there are guidelines that they need to keep. In fact, let's say set expectations for these children and let the children know what is required of them within that home environment. Every home has their guidelines. That's to say, not all homes are the same. Because
administrative.
Yes, administrative. You have your administrative blueprint for every home, but we're all leading to the same destination. So the children are supposed to be guided and led within the home, and it has to do with setting clear expectations for these children and leading them in a way that they can become wholesome individuals within the home environment.
Okay, that should make the difference between those who grew up in homes and those who grew up on the streets. Street children, nobody set expectations for them. There were no guidelines. They did things anyhow. So by the time they are adults, no habits have been formed, or they have formed the wrong habits. So as parents, our role from when the children are even infants is to begin to use our authority combined with our love to guide them in the right direction. Okay, but the Bible says children are like arrows in the hands of a mighty man. So what do you do with an arrow? You put it in the bow and then aim it in a particular direction. The home environment should help to aim the children where they should go in life and who they should become in life. Now, a great part of this now is routines that people grow up with in the home. Let's talk a bit about that.
Routines are very, very important and very useful in the development of the child. From an educator's perspective, I know a few things that routine can accomplish in the child. The child would be free from anxiety, because when children know what is expected of them, they have a sense of control over their environment and they are more relaxed. So it enhances predictability in the child. Routine brings order and cooperation. If you have a home with children and you don't set that guideline of routine where each person has their own role to play and responsibility, you discover there's chaos. I have a personal example with my children growing up, and at times you see the children arguing on who is supposed to
do
sweep
one thing or the other.
they sweep or to do the dishes and all of that. So there's this chaos. But when you set routines, there's cooperation. Routine also improves academic excellence because the children are motivated. They also learn time management, so it enhances academic excellence. Where you encourage that within the home, it also affects them in the school. In the school, we create routines for the children as well. Routine will also develop life skills, enable the child to develop life skills, healthy habits on time. They will learn hygiene, they will learn time management, self-control, they will learn independence and confidence. They're able to work on their own. So it's important that we encourage children within the home, give them, their chores and let them have that routine. It would develop them, give them that overall development that they need as children.
Holistic development.
Yes.
And this is where we can now look at the fact that some parents, because they think they are doing well, think house chores are for house helps alone. So the children they're becoming indolent, they lie around the house, they watch TV all day, they're on screen all day, they talk rudely to everybody. After all, they are the boss. They are, now my papa and my mama house be this. So a lot of times, the house helps end up more competent in life, more adjusted to responsibility in their later life than the children. I met a girl many years ago. That was even when I was doing my youth service. I was on youth service at 22. She was 23. So she was older than me, but of course we were in NCCF together, and she couldn't cook because in family house, the ladies take turns to cook. She didn't know, that we were not the Indomie generation, of course, so there was no Indomie then. But some basic things, like even making eba. She couldn't make eba when somebody else had made the soup.
Because she was not used to that.
Because house helps did everything for her. So don't make that mistake of training another person's child and thinking chores are demeaning. They are not demeaning. They are the way of preparing children for later responsibility in life. And there's even a study I came across some time ago that said children that do not do basic things at home, that do not learn to take care of themselves from home, are less confident in life and less competent later on, no matter which schools they go to.
Yes, it does affect them. It has an overall effect on the child. You see, some adults that you see that are not organized, they can't put their lives together. They're just lazy. They're just indolent. Is because they were not used to any form of routine from childhood, or maybe they rebelled against it. But routine has so many benefits, because even as adults, we get the best out of life when we're able to manage our time, when we're able to lead ourselves. Self-mastery and leadership is what would amount to your success in life. So you see, when you keep these children within the home and you ensure that they are following a guideline and they are doing it repeatedly, you are preparing them for success in life. It's not everything that is academics. In fact, the things that will really help you in life are not taught in the classroom.
Yeah, that's true.
They are not. Yeah. So as parents, we should also develop ourselves so that we can pass on these things to our children. And you have to put your feet down. That's where we talked about being an authoritative parent. Don't be this parent that anything goes for the child. If the child is saying, you just, back down and all of that. Don't be that kind of parent. Be a parent that balances that care and love with discipline. Put your feet down and ensure that the child is doing the right thing at the right time and at the right age, and eventually it will pay off. The child will be able to thrive outside there.
Most of us as adults keep referring to the things we experience from our parents. My dad, for instance, was a no-nonsense man when it came to miscreant behavior. The first time I tried to smoke, and it wasn't cigarette, it was myself and my younger brother. We've been seeing adults smoking, so we cut this grass that has some hole, we lit it and we're behind the house. And Baba caught us. The kind of beating he gave me that day, from that day till now, I feel smoking is not worth the effort. But how was I was less than 10. Maybe I was like 6 or 7 at that time. And my younger brother was younger. I'm not up to 2 years older than him. But the firmness, my mom, for instance, one of the things she did that I'm still grateful for, I could have had a very terrible temper. I believe God has helped me a lot with it. And you still tell me that. But imagine if it was not tamed. When my mom will not permit any child to throw tantrums. You can't get anything by exhibiting tantrum. In fact, that's the reason you won't get it. Right from when we were infants. And she had quite a number of us. So that begins to tame that energy from when I was little, so that as a grown adult now, I know that anger is not the way to have my way. Now, it's terrible for somebody of my temperament or an extrovert temperament to grow up without restraints being placed on their emotional expressions from home. By the time they are adults, they're a disaster going to happen.
Exactly. That's true. That's true. And in also setting routines, establishing routines for the children, we ought to understand that we'll be successful within the home environment if communication is open. So open communication would enhance that between you and the children working within the home. Anyway, you should be able to listen to your child, because I think parents also are faulted there where they are impatient. You just feel the child is
not absorbing fast enough.
Or the child doesn't know anything. That's what they think, that the child is blank. No, that child is not blank. So you think the child is blank and the child does not understand. So you are not ready. Even a 2-year-old child should be listened to. So within the home, let's listen actively to our children. And if we do that, if we model that, they will listen as well, because they are picking from us. So if you are going to establish routine within the home and also get the children to follow the guidelines, follow the expectations that is required of them, then communication is key.
Very important.
Yeah.
Even in the area of discipline I was talking about, I think that's where we did a little bit better than the home where I was brought up. Because for us, even in disciplining our children, sometimes we'll sit them down and explain why, particularly when it comes to corporate discipline. In their little years, I will explain why. I'll show them the scriptures. This is what the Bible says about corporal punishment. This is why we have to do it. So sometimes in those days I'll ask, how many strokes of the cane should I give you now? And I remember, give me one stroke of the cane, chinkiri like this. I'm already sorry. Right, so they know that you are using the rod of correction, not the rod of anger, even when it comes to setting their boundaries. And particularly in this generation where we have gadgets and TV and satellite television and all that. Tell me about boundaries in that area.
Well, the advent of technology is a blessing. There's also, it's a mixed blessing, let me say it. It's a mixed blessing. So technology is fantastic. It has, eased a lot of things. But then we know that it has its downsides, yes. And for our children, we should understand that they are age appropriate content that they should indulge in, and then there is a time. Even the Bible says there's a time for everything. So you don't give your 2-year-old a tab or a phone, because they begin to get used to it from that age. You discover that if you give a 2-year-old your phone to begin to fiddle, and the next time he or she wants to pick it and you refuse, begins to throw tantrums. You understand? So what happens is that we release certain things to our children
at certain ages.
Yes, prematurely.
Okay, now we do it. Okay, I get what you're saying.
Like those things that we know that they need to be exposed to it at a certain age, because that is when they can handle it. You don't give a 7-year-old child a phone. The child will spend her time or his time on the phone doing all kinds of things, and then you are distracting the child. We grew up with our phones, and I noticed one very sad thing now, that a lot of young people can't read. They are not interested in books. They are not interested in books. They would rather watch and they would rather listen.
Yeah, and that doesn't develop your mind as robustly as reading does.
Yes.
We're a reading generation.
So talk more about that.
No, so you see, when you are reading, you engage 4-5 aspects of your mind. In fact, your whole brain is engaged. You are engaging your sense of sight, you're engaging your sense of reasoning, and let me call them senses. Now, this may not be the scientific words. You're
Imagination.
engaging your memory because you are trying to remember the last chapter to know how the stories connect, even if it's a novel. You are engaging your imaginations. You are engaging your emotions. So all these 5 aspects of your brain are being engaged at the same time. But when you're watching, somebody has processed everything for you already.
Yes,
they are giving you the
yes.
finished product.
Yeah.
So watching does not develop you. It does not flex your mental muscles as much as reading. But you see, there's something we have tried to do in our children right from when they were younger. We've always tried to give them books, try to limit their screen time. Now they will get angry. They will sulk. They will think that you are not such a fun parent.
Yeah.
Can we say this?
That's where the discipline
comes in.
You know, exercising your authority over them.
Authority, so that they can develop this on time. Okay. Now, there's something I consider a mistake. Actually, when I look back, my children got smartphones earlier than they should. My first 2 girls gave them smartphones at 12, and when at 13 when they were becoming teenagers. And when I look back now, I realize I made a mistake. So I didn't do that with my son because he's 5 years separated from them. I didn't give him his own smartphone until he was 16. And I think there were times he thought I was being a hard man father. All his friends in school had smartphones. Now, he had gadgets at home to use under supervision. He had access to the tabletop. In fact, he was the one using the tabletop mostly that time. He had access to my laptop. But he didn't have his own that he could indulge in at will. And he's a similar temperament to myself. I know that has really gone a long way making him who he is right now, because people like me need control on time.
Yeah.
We tend to do things in excess, whether good or bad. If we serve Jesus, we are all the way. Anything I do, I go all the way. So it's better that my appetite for wrong consumption is curbed on time. That's why a lot of adults have so much struggles, because nobody put boundaries for them. So they over-exercise themselves in the wrong things. As adults, they're trying to develop these habits, and it's not easy anymore. Now, when it comes to communication with children, let's go back and talk about that a little bit more. You use a word that caught my attention: age appropriate. Age appropriate. Is there age appropriate communication?
Sure, there is age appropriate communication. There are some things that you cannot share with your children at a particular age. For example, sex education or sex talks. There are sex talks that are age appropriate, but some people don't know that. Just
They say
expose
everything.
Yes, and that is, children are naturally curious, and we need to leverage on their curiosity, because it's a gift. It's actually a plus. But then you also have to be careful. You have to be careful also based on that curiosity, so that they are not going to try to find out, or they are going to try to get involved in something they are not supposed to be involved in at the wrong time.
Yes.
Let me give you an example. If a child begins to crawl and the child crawls towards the socket, oftentimes you tell the child, don't touch, don't go there. That don't go there makes the child curious
to know what is there.
If the child wants to know what is there that daddy is telling me not to go, and then when you just take your sight, you take your eyes off the child, the next thing the child is going there to touch the socket, or to even stick their finger through the socket and get burned. So children are curious. So we need to manage that curiosity by just giving them the right information at the right time, that which they can handle, that which is important or beneficial to them. Because it's not everything that is beneficial to them. So you need to know when to begin to release those.
All things are lawful unto me, but not
all things are helpful.
Yes.
So I think.
Now, and when we talk about open communication also, there is something I've been doing since my children were little. From time to time, I call each of them. I get along with each of them. Sometimes I do it in a week. This is your hour, me and you alone. You can say anything you want to say. Ask me questions. Because you see, particularly when you have a number of children in the house, if they are just one or two, even when they are one or two, you may think they have your full attention. But there is this exclusivity when a mother or a father sits down with a child and gives them that attention and say, I want to hear what is on your mind. What are you going through? How do you feel about this? What are your expectations this holiday? I normally ask them when holiday time is coming, what are your expectations this holiday? What can we do to make it fun? What can we do to make it effective? So they begin to feel important, that their opinions are heard. A lot of children grow up in homes where they feel they don't matter. And they matter to you. They matter in your heart. You are laboring to provide for them.
Yes, exactly. So you get distracted and sometimes forget them. Talking about open communication, connecting it still to routine within the home environment, where you are just trying to instill values and all of these skills in the children. You have to set clear expectation. As an adult and leading people, I realize that sometimes it's not that people don't want to execute what they are being asked to do. It's just that they do not have a clear instruction. The instruction is not clear. So as parents, we need to make the expectation clear. There shouldn't be any blur areas. Make it clear to the child, right? Don't assume that your child should do the dishes and you don't tell the child to do the dishes. That's what I've learned.
When to wake up, when to go to bed.
Bedtime should be, I've observed in some homes and with some parents, the children don't have bedtime, which is an error. Your children should have bedtime. Sometimes they are not even sleep, but they should lie down on that bed and just keep calm.
Keep calm.
Even as adults, you see, we went to secondary school. Why did we have lights out? Because they know that, for you to develop a holistic person, you have to have that routine, and then they have to develop all of these sleep habits. As adults now, we are struggling with sleeping. We can't sleep on time because you don't have that routine. Some people are used to siesta. Some are not used to siesta because siesta was never part of their growing up routine. So you should have bedtime. You should have screen time. There should be the
minimum or maximum exposure to screen every day.
Yes. And I would advise that for children that are during the school term, let your children watch the screen just weekends.
Yeah,
because you can't combine.
That's what we have always done. Once the school is in session, no TV, no screen time of any sort. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And even the weekend one has to be controlled.
You have the specified time you can watch while you are supervising what they are watching. Not left to themselves. You are supervising what they are watching, not just left alone to themselves. Encourage your children to make their beds. They should have bath time. They should have reading time. They should also have homework.
Yes.
Parents, please supervise your children to do their homework. What I've experienced is a lot of children come back to school with homework undone. It doesn't speak well of us as parents. That means we are neglecting our children. We are not concerned about their academic work. You know that as a child, for children, you have to supervise them. Some parents just say, go and do your homework. And then after some time, have you done your homework? They'll say yes. But in reality, they didn't do the homework. They dropped it, got distracted, they started playing, or they didn't understand to an extent what they were expected to do, because you have to remind them. I don't advocate that schools should give homework that is not being taught in class, but even the ones that are being taught, the child has to be, guided as well. So let's follow up our children on homework. There's time for homework. There's time to eat. There's time to, make sure you are bathed and you've done your personal grooming. That should be communicated to the child clearly.
And in conclusion of all these things we are saying, a home that runs with clear routines and expectations raises children that become excellent in life. So don't be afraid or don't hold back from instilling these things. A home cannot be a place where everything goes. Some children grow up in homes where they are still like street kids. The difference between somebody that grew up in a home and somebody that grew up on the streets is because on the street somebody sets expectations for you. Okay, but at home there should be clear expectations. If as they become adults, as they become maybe teenagers, and they begin to be able to go out by themselves, there should be specific time of when they should come back home. Not that I'm going to see my friend. and they are free to come back at any time. Boundaries don't hurt, they build.
Yeah.
Boundaries don't hurt, they build. And when you as a parent fail to set these boundaries, you are hurting their future. Okay, that's enough for today. In conclusion, what do you have to say?
I wanted to say that parents, please, let's stop threatening our children.
Okay.
When you give threats and don't carry them out, you are actually undoing what you have done. When you give threats and you don't carry them out, you're weakening your authority. So give instructions. If they don't follow up the instructions, have a conversation with them and give them the opportunity to make it up. And after some, concession, you can administer discipline. Let it be orderly.
And discipline doesn't have to be corporal all the time.
No.
Okay?
No.
Discipline could be get into your room and don't come out for the next 3 hours.
Withdrawing, benefits.
Withdraw benefits. If they abuse curfews, ground them. Those things are good.
Very good.
I remember one of my kids, I don't want to be specific, collecting her phone. There's no punishment that used to pain her like when you collect. Just take her phone away from her, because she could easily be distracted. You give her an assignment, she sees something interesting on social media and she's carried away. I think she was even already a teenager at this time. You're not going to have that phone for 24 hours. And she will do everything to please you, to make sure she gets her phone back. But as she's struggling to please you to get her phone back, muscles are growing. Mental muscles of discipline are growing. So, yes, I believe in a fun-filled house, but the fun should not overshadow the necessity for boundaries, for clear expectations, and for discipline in the house. Order is good for a home.
Yeah.
Okay. We're still going to come back and continue with this topic, because it's a very deep and wide topic. But what we really want to do is just share experiences that would help you grow. And as we listen and apply, we will be growing. This is where we'll stop for this particular broadcast. We'll see you in the next broadcast.